my last sermon of this school year, Rabbi Jesse has given me a challenge to do a sermon similar to how he does, which is more conversational. I'm not at the mood. I don't have something written. I'm very nervous about this. I like my security blanket of a written paper, but I'm not going to grow as a rabbi if I don't do this, so we're giving it a shot. A few weeks ago was URJ Summer Camp's Day of Giving, a day where all 14 URJ camps encourage alumni, families, clergy, friends of the camp to donate money. There's a friendly competition to see which camp can raise the most money. And as a proud alumni of not one, but 2 URJ camps, I obviously donated money. And as I was giving my money, I'm very big on Instagram, I'm a millennial, and so I was going through old photos and reminiscing on the friendships and relationships I had made at camp. I have not been at summer camp since 2023, which in some senses is a very long time to be away. But for the first camp I went to, URJ Camp Harlem, I haven't been there since 2015. And a lot of the relationships that I made, while I see them post on Facebook and I think very fondly of them and how they impacted me in my past, I'm not friends with them anymore. I no longer have a personal relationship with the people who built me up. And I think for many of us, we have people in our lives that we can look back on. They may have been friends, they may have been mentors, they may have been classmates, and we can look back and see how they impacted our lives, but also recognize that they're not in our lives at this moment. In this week's Parsha, Parshat Bechukotai, we have a similar understanding of our relationship with God. In the modern world, our relationship with God feels very far away at times. It does not feel like we have a close connection. There is no longer a prophet speaking directly to God, and there are no longer ministering angels speaking directly to prophets. We don't have an intact connection. But in this week's Parsha, we hear the words, and I am going to cheat and use my paper to read the Hebrew. I am sorry, Rabbi Jesse. We hear the words, "V'natati mishkani b'tochahem, v'lo tigal nafshi etchem." I will place my dwelling in your midst, and my soul will not loathe you. God places a dwelling amidst the Israeli people and makes a promise to never leave. God's soul will not loathe the people, will not hate the people, or leave them. But why then, after the temple has fallen, do we so often feel that we don't have a connection with God? And Rashi highlights that this mishkani, this dwelling that God places, Rashi says that this dwelling is the temple. So how can God give us this dwelling, say, I will not loathe you, I will not forsake you, and then do that? Jumping forward a few centuries past Rashi, we have the Ashkenazi Wise Woman's Commentary, which says something a little different. The Ashkenazi Wise Commentary says that the Mishkani is something much more broad than a physical presence, that it does not need to be the temple, and that this dwelling is so much more. It's a presence. It's important to note that Mishkani comes from the same root as Shekhinah, Shin, Kaf, Nun. Shekhinah is the feminine presence of the divine, and in Kabbalistic thought, the Shekhinah is the closest relationship that God can have with the Israeli people. There are 10 Sephirot, and the Shekhinah is the closest to the world we live in. God's presence can be among us, not just in the physical space of the temple, but in the spaces that we make for God. We can make these spaces here at Temple Israel, in our beautiful sanctuary, in other synagogues. We can make these spaces our own mishkanot in religious schools and at summer camps, where our children are filled with joy and singing songs, where they are learning our cultures and our traditions. And our own homes can also be mishkanot, can be these holy places where God's dwelling exists and God's presence is with us. As we celebrate holidays with our families, uphold Jewish tradition and our own family traditions, we can feel that relationship with God. When we weave together the various Jewish spaces of our lives and make our own mishkanot, our modern day mishkans, we feel God's presence amongst us. And so it's important to note that even if God feels distant, when you're here in the space on Friday night, or when you are celebrating Hanukkah with your loved ones, or when you are walking through these halls hearing kids singing, God is there.